completed and distributed to council. Mr. Council, does the state have any issues with the contents of the report?
No, Your Honor.
Same question, you dispute.
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Does the state have any evidence to present?
I have 3 victim family members who would like to make statements. So
Sure.
if I could call the first one.
Okay.
Susan James, please.
Coming up, ma'am, just have a seat. I'm not going to swear any of these witnesses in unless you want me to.
I don't think.
I'll just remind Council that Ms. James, you should correct your statements to me and not to the defendant. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
First, before you read your statement, could you just let everyone know who you are and how you're related to this case?
My name is Susan James. I am the cousin of Debria. I have been in this family for over 20 years.
And Debria is the deceased. Just so. Go ahead.
So I first would just like to say that we miss Debria every single day. So, and that we love her. And we know that there's nothing that can happen today that will bring her back. The family's just looking for closure. And we trust God today that we will get that closure. And I also have a victim's impact statement from her mom that her mom would like for me to read.
Patricia, would you like to come up?
Patrice Cole-Plaisir, the mother of Debria Cole-Plaisir, the grandmother of Dion Rogers Jr. Her statement reads, I miss Debria being around for her birthdays. I miss her being around for my birthday. We would have large parties for our birthdays. I miss her being around for her son. We used to have a lot of fun with her. I miss her on holidays. I miss her being here for pictures. She could be further and do better. When I had my stroke, she would have been here to help take care of me. She would have been my therapist. My father misses her being here. I miss her going to church with us whenever she came. She used to be in the Sunshine Band. I miss her singing very well. She would fuss a lot, but I don't mind her fussing if that meant that she would be here. I'd rather have her here with me than not. The pain to talk about this is not very easy. She was my baby, my secondborn. My grandmother loved her. She passed away when Debria was little, but she still loved her. She enjoyed her brand new car, but it was the death of her. She enjoyed her home. She was very fashionable and enjoyed dressing. She had very lovely hair. I had very high hopes for her and that she would remain beautiful. Maybe I didn't talk to her enough. I called her more often to just talk to her. She was a valued woman. She gave people good feelings. Her son lost his mom forever. He was awake through it all. He remembers the terror. He was 7 years old. They will never see each other again. I'm very upset because I will never see her again. Because someone did not care for her or her son or the other children, I will never be the same. It will never be the same for me or my grandson. He will never have his mom. I will never have my baby daughter ever again. The only way I can be with her is in the graveyard where the pictures are on their headstone.
So, you brought this, Patricia, is that right?
Yes.
And that's your daughter, and that's Dion who's in the car with her? That's her also.
Yes.
I didn't hear that last part of your question.
And that's her also.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you wanted to say, Patricia?
I can't hear.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Maybe slide that mic over a little bit.
Mr. Conklin, if you would, we need to hear what you're saying, so.
There we go. That might be better.
I'm one of the judges,
The rest of the pictures, right? I'm gonna show those with your eyes. So is there anything besides the pictures you wanted the judge to hear about how this has affected you?
this is that have affected me well, terribly. I will never get.
Introduce yourself and how you're related.
My name is Soraya Dennis. I am Debria Cole-Pleasure's older sister and only sibling. I am the aunt and sole legal guardian of Dion Rogers Jr., Debria's son. So first, thank you, Your Honor, for the opportunity to speak about the impact this tragic event from July 24th, 2019 has had on my family. When Debria told me that she was pregnant, I was shocked. I was excited after that I would be an aunt. We immediately started to figure out what the baby would call me, and I'm referencing the pregnancy of Dion Rogers. Since the girls already named her TT, months later we came up with the name Tita, although we weren't sure it would stick. Debria was a boss and enjoyed life, traveling and seeing the world. She didn't let anything stop her from living life and enjoying the fruits of her labor. She was a beautiful spirit. Her laugh was infectious and at times inappropriate, which made it terrible for the people around her who couldn't help but to join in laughing. She loved to crack jokes on anyone, and she would laugh so hard at her own jokes. Whether you thought it was funny or not, you would laugh because of how hard she was laughing. She definitely felt entitled in our relationship from the time she was a little girl. It was always about her. She was the baby. My mom would still call her the baby well into her adulthood. We loved to dance and hang out. This meant I was always doing her makeup if she wanted to look a special way. She even thought I would do her makeup for my wedding. We traveled to Cancun for her 30th birthday in April 2019, which was the last time I embraced my sister. We left Mexico at different times, so she had to stay in Mexico for another several hours. I remember hugging her when she took us to the airport, and I was sad. I didn't want to leave her alone. I was nervous about her being there a few hours alone. I was worried something would happen to her and no one would know. She would need me, and I wasn't there. In a hospital bed, and I'm hearing as I'm pleading to God to save her life that she has been internally decapitated. The last time I was able to do Debria's makeup and hair was when I was standing over her lifeless body, preparing her for the final farewell. Judge, I do not have another sibling. Dion doesn't have a mother. We love him. I will always take care of him, but it's not fair. I suffered with my mother through her stroke. I was scared that I would lose another person and our trio would be destroyed. Isaiah has his family, and he has sisters, he has brothers, he has his children. They have each other. I don't have that. I have had to adjust my entire life to fill so many roles of my sister. I miss her, and I want her to know, and you all to know, that she is truly missed and that we love her eternally. And these are some photos.
On a tragic case where a woman, mother, sister, and daughter lost their life. 3 children suffered broken bones, and a 4th luckily escaped more serious injury. The facts in this case are that the defendant, Isaiah Irons, was driving down Emmanuel Cleaver right around 45th Terrace, and he hit a depression in the roadway. He was going 70 miles an hour at least in a 45-mile-an-hour zone, according to the crash reconstruction evidence. He lost control, and he crashed head-on into a tree, as you can see from those pictures. The tree didn't move. The car was crushed from the front. It's hardly believable that anyone could survive this crash when looking at those pictures. As you heard, the front seat passenger, Debria Colclaser, she died from her injuries. And you heard from her family. Their lives are irrevocably affected by this. It's never going to be the same for them. As you heard, she was internally decapitated and died from her injuries. 3 of the children in the back seat had visibly broken legs. Witnesses at the scene said that it was instantly obvious that the kids were suffering from broken legs and they had to be helped from the vehicle by passersby who thank God helped and stopped. There were no car seats found in the vehicle, even though the ages of the children were all under 10. No one was wearing seatbelts in this car either. So, as I said, speed was clearly a huge factor in this crash. As I said, the reconstruction shows that the defendant was going a minimum of 70 miles an hour in a 45-mile-an-hour zone. If you refer to the sentencing assessment report, the defendant also has 3 separate speeding convictions on his record, going back all the way to 2006. So this is not new behavior for him. He clearly doesn't really care what the speed limit is. He's going to drive as fast as he feels he can to get there. And this is the consequence of that. People were hurt, a woman was killed. Now, in going through the sentencing assessment report, there are a few other things that I would like to direct the court's attention to. In the offender's version section, he told probation and parole that he doesn't remember what happened. But he also told them that he couldn't control it and it was an accident. Well, he was driving the car. If anyone could control it, it was him. He chose to drive that fast that day. He chose to drive in a car with 4 small children without child safety seats. This is what happened. This is the consequence of that action, is those kids suffered broken legs, and Ms. Colclaser is not with us anymore. The defendant's attitude throughout this proceeding has not been remorseful. he's not seemed to take this seriously. If you recall back to the guilty plea, Your Honor, the defendant was about 30 minutes late for the guilty plea. He was casual, he was smiling, he was kind of joking around. He couldn't remember one of the child's names as we were going through the factual basis. Multiple times in the SAR, the writer says that he reported having mixed emotions about this crash. I find it hard to see what mixed emotions you could have about what happened in this case. I could see feeling terrible, I could see feeling ashamed, but to say you have mixed emotions about a crash that killed, at the time, your girlfriend, seriously injured 3 of your children, I can't imagine having mixed emotions about that. This is a serious crash with, again, serious consequences. Meanwhile, as you heard today, a child doesn't have his mother, a sister will never get to take care of your younger sister again, and a mother doesn't have her daughter. We've lost a member of our community due to the defendant's actions in this case. We can't get her back. The consequences in this case need to be as serious as the actions that led to them. The defendant needs to face prison time for this offense. Probation is not appropriate in this case. Again, someone is dead, and 4 children could easily be right along with them, along with the defendant himself. He was seriously injured as a result of this crash as well. This is not just a car accident. The defendant drove in a criminally negligent manner. Again, at least 70 miles an hour in a 45 zone, excessively speeding, and he did so without taking any prior precautions as to the safety of his children. So, it is for all these reasons, Your Honor, that I am asking for the maximum allowable sentence under the plea agreement, which is a 4-year sentence on count 1 and concurrent 7-year sentences on counts 2, 3, 4, and 5. Again, all will run concurrent, so ultimately a 7-year sentence. Thank you.
Thank you. This is very serious, emotional, for everybody involved. You know myself, I've had this case for over a year. I've represented Mr. Irons. And, you know, like he's always said to me, and he mentioned in the sentencing assessment report, you know, he can't take it back, and that's true. But what he can do, and what he did do, Judge, is he can accept responsibility for his actions. And I don't know any better way to do that than for him to plead guilty to the charges. You're set for trial, you know, on like one or 2 occasions. He could have done that, he didn't. And that was obviously after a lot of discussion, a lot of emotional discussion between me and Mr. Irons. And ultimately, he made the decision to plead guilty to the charges, rather than going through a trial and all that. And I'm not trying to argue that, you know, it's any better for the family of the victim. But what I am arguing is there's no more official way to take responsibility for your actions than plead guilty to it. And as the court's prepared, that requires meeting every factual element of the charges, which means criminally negligent. So he admitted that to the court. He admitted he was criminally negligent. As far as taking responsibility, I don't think there's any more he can do than that, than to plead guilty and leave it up to the court as to the sentence that's imposed, and whatever that is, he'll accept that. And if he wasn't ready to accept it, he wouldn't have done it. He wouldn't have pled guilty to it. There's a lot. I think there's kind of a lot more to unpack, Judge, in the SAR than I think first meets the eye. There were a couple of things I did want to address just after hearing the state's argument. And this is one of those things where when it comes to the assessment report, and you know, Your Honor has read countless of them. I have, Mr. Conklin has. You know, discussion, you know, we read it and we try to picture what the mindset was or how the question was asked, or how the answer was given, but, you know, none of us know we weren't there. I do know, and especially in this incident assessment report, as far as his version, you know, I respect Mr. Conklin, his opinion, but Mr. Irons, I don't think was trying to say that he's not guilty or that he wasn't criminally negligent. He wasn't saying that. He couldn't remember it. And the reason he couldn't remember it is because he was in a coma for 2 months. And that's, and I'll circle back to George. But, you know, it's not to minimize the injuries that have been done to the family of the victim that's here. It's not to say, well, you know, Mr. Irons got hurt really bad too, so, you know, go easy on him, but it's a factor, and I bring that up in relation to the SAR because I think it gives a little more context to what was said in the defender's version. I don't think he was trying to shirk responsibility, he certainly hasn't to the court. I think it's the fact that he was in a brutal wreck, and it was caused by his criminal negligence, and he's told the court that. And it put him in the hospital for months, in a coma for months. And so, you know, I don't doubt for a moment, and I've talked to Mr. Irons about what that was like, that he just didn't remember. And that's what happens when you smash your head and go into a coma, and, you know, that may have been his fault, and that's not what we're trying to say that it wasn't. But that's just the facts, and that's the context, I think, when we look at the version that should be given to it. I think what sheds light on that point, Judge, I believe it's page 4. On page 4, under responsivity, issues, and other barriers, the first sentence that she writes is, Irons appears to take responsibility for the crime offense. So, at some point, she got that idea. I don't think she just pulled it out of thin air. That was his behavior in the SAR. I think he did say that. I think if you go down further, and this would be in the same under section H, page 4. If you go down to the very last paragraph, there's a couple little lines that I wanted to point out. The first one being, he understands his criminal behavior has affected others. That was expressed in the SAR. Mr. Irons expressed that. Next, Irons reported he is sorry. He can't take it back. You know, those are genuine things that he did say in the SAR. And so I think when you read it that way, I think it's clear that up in the offender version, when he says he doesn't remember what happened and it was an accident, it's not that he's not sorry or remorseful. It's just that's the context. And like I said, we don't know how the question was asked, but it's factually true. I mean, Mr. Irons didn't want this to happen. He didn't want to kill him. He didn't want to hurt his kids, but except for the fact that he used criminal negligence that he's pled guilty to. And even though he was criminally negligent, it's not a case where he set out to kill or hurt anybody. He made the wrong decisions that led to that, you know, before you get in the car and go to the ground. So I just want to make that delineation, so as not to say that he's shirking any responsibility or that it doesn't hurt him or that he's not sorry or that he's not emotional about it. And I think those paragraphs, when read together, I think gives good insight into his mind frame. As far as his behavior in hearings, I know that, you know, for me, Mr. Irons has made every single one. He may have been late to the guilty plea. I don't remember. Court knows I've been late to the guilty plea. I think, you know, one thing that another thing that, the state pointed out, and that I had already noted on the citizen assessment is, another thing Mr. Ryan said, that idea of mixed emotions. And to be honest, Judge, and on behalf of Mr. Ryan, and having talked to him countless times over the last year plus, you know, it's super hard for him, it's very emotional for him. And, you know, mixed emotions, I don't know how you quantify that. You want to break down, you know, the dictionary words, I don't think he meant what the state was insinuating. It's not like he's happy about it and sad about it. That's not the case at all. Mr. Irons is not happy in any way, shape, or form that it happened. He's not happy that his actions led to that. He's not happy he had to come into court and plead guilty and face the punishment that's handed out by the court. You know, he's never happy about that. Hasn't even been, never will be. It's hard to do. And, you know, I know that we know that that's nothing compared to, you know, the suffering the victim's families face and the loss for Mr. Irons. But it's not, you know, it's not something that, you know, he's ever been enthusiastic, quite the opposite. I can't imagine being in Mr. Irons' position. Obviously, his actions could lead to this. And, you know, in addition to the injuries that we've discussed, just the mental aspect, none of us know, you know, what it's like to carry that around. Mr. Irons has to, you know, in addition to severe head injuries and just knowing what your actions led to, what it caused, listening to the victim's family, it can't be easy for him. There's no way. And I know on behalf of Mr. Irons, he doesn't feel that way at all. You know, everybody handles brain injury, trauma, PTSD, everybody handles it different. It manifests in many different ways. But I know Mr. Irons is extremely remorseful. He knows that he's sorry for what he did. And I also know he didn't want it to happen, but it did. And here we are. And that's why he pled guilty. As far as the speeding convictions, Judge, I don't parse out too much. Yes, I think 3 speeding tickets, 2 in 06, 1 in 2010. Take that for what it's worth. Mr. Irons doesn't drive anymore. He can't. He hasn't been allowed to, or does he? His disabilities make it difficult as well. I think, Judge, in this case, and on behalf of Mr. Irons, the biggest thing is what he's done since. And the fact of the matter is, Judge, he couldn't do anything more than he's done to follow every order of the court meticulously. And we're talking about, you know, he went into custody back in August of 2020. And since he bonded out, which is that same month,
Let me remind everybody, if you're that phone,
it sets him back. It takes the progress he's made as a person where we wanted him. But with that, the prison is always in. If the court gives him an opportunity on probation, doesn't have any room for error, zero. And, you know, that prison sentence is still hanging out there. We're not asking Judge to suspend the position. We're asking to suspend the execution. I give him a chance of probation because we understand the severity of the case. And I think that and again, just on the legal side, it would stick with the criminal conviction. That's not easy to take. You know, felonies are very hard to overcome, but that's something that he would have to be willing to deal with. Is having to live with those convictions and live with He hasn't been since. You know, he's got a stable home plan and takes care of his newest child, because obviously there's conditions on other children. So that's what we're asking for, we are, Judge. We're asking that the court give him a chance on probation, hang out a sentence there so that he understands that, number one, there was no room for error, but number two, it puts that on him for the rest of his life. That's why we're asking that the court impose a sentence, suspend execution of that sentence to give him a chance on probation to continue his live. And then if he doesn't do it, Judge, it's on him. And he goes to the OC and he's well aware of it. But I do think on behalf of Mr. Irons that he has done a very good job since he's been out, certainly better than mine. And so we're just asking the court to give him a chance to continue that. Just real briefly in closing, because I forgot to mention it. The employment, he's waiting on disability. Obviously, he was severely injured. So that's one of the factors in SAR. He's unable to work. He's waiting on total disability ruling, Judge. So that's kind of why some of those were moderate risk. That's our request, Judge, is that the court impose a sentence and DOC suspend execution based on term of probation. Move on to special conditions of course he's fit. Thank you.
I'm Isaiah Irish, Your Honor. I'm deeply sorry, you know what I mean, for the crime that I committed. But I just like the family lost a loved one. I had love for her too. Like we grew up since we was like kids. Her mama was best friends. It's like I was a family, we all family. So I'm hurt too. I lost a loved one as well. Ain't nothing I can really say to bring it back. I make it right, I changed my life.